With the PSVR2 releasing very soon on February 22nd, I'm going to lay out all of the specs and the unique features of the PSVR2 to help you better decide whether this is a headset that you should buy or not. The PSVR2 has a near 4K display at 2000 by 2040 pixels per eye using an OLED HDR Fresnel lens. Fresnel lenses, if you don't know, they are relatively cheap and quite old lenses for VR headsets, and they're used in headsets like the Valve Index, MetaQuest 2, and the HTC Vive Pro. One of the biggest cons of the Fresnel lenses are that they have some bad light distortion at times, but apparently Sony has patented a new lens design for these types of Fresnels that should cut down on the light distortion, but we will have to wait to see how that actually plays out when we get our hands on the actual headset. Even though, of course, it is a con to have Fresnel lenses that have any light distortion at all, keep in mind, most of the time, if you do notice light distortion in headsets like these, like the Index and whatnot, it's only ever when there's black screen with white text on there. Other than that, if you're in a regular game, you're almost never going to notice any light distortion. More of the displays, the PSVR2 has a 90 to 120 Hz refresh rate and a field of view of 110 degrees. The headset will also have a manual IPD adjustment slider, which allows you to move the lenses to the correct size of the distance between your eyes. Usually manual sliders are a con in my opinion in 2023, but with the eye tracking on the PSVR2, you'll be able to get very precise with the positioning of the lenses. This is very important because if your lenses are too far apart or too close together, you can have lots of distortion in the lenses, but most importantly, it can give you some really bad headaches and make for an overall worse experience when you're playing VR for any longer extended periods of time. The PSVR2 uses inside-out tracking like the MetaQuest 2 does, allowing you to move as far as the cable allows you to move without losing any tracking in your headset or the controllers. And it eliminates the need of a PlayStation camera unlike the PSVR1. With the inside-out tracking of the headset, it'll also have black and white pass-through mode. Sadly, it's not RGB, but the only other headsets right now that are on the market that have that RGB pass-through is the Quest Pro and the HTC Vive XR Elite. And those are both double the price of this headset, so clearly that is not a very cheap option to do right now. Now onto the unique features of the headset. The PSVR2, as I hinted at earlier, will have eye tracking, which for example will allow you to select items on menus by just looking at them. With the eye tracking, the headset can also track your blinking as well, which means some games, probably mostly horror games, will be using that blinking feature just so they can scare the shit out of you even more. Going hand in hand with the eye tracking is that the PSVR2 will have foveated rendering, which is a process to improve the performance and the graphical experience of every game. It works by only rendering the portions of a scene that you are currently looking at while the surrounding areas are all blurred. The headset will also be using Sony's Tempest 3D spatial audio, which allows you to accurately tell where a sound is coming from. They use this on the PSVR1, and it definitely adds a lot to the immersion of every game. The PSVR2 will have a built-in haptic motor on the facial interface of itself, which means it'll allow you to feel things like gunshots, blasts, and other stuff hitting you in the face while you're in VR, which is something that we haven't seen in any other headset, and I'm very excited to test out and see exactly how it works. Now, last of all, onto the controllers. They will have a haptic feedback throughout the entire controller, which I hope is using the haptic motors from the PS5 controllers, which are amazingly accurate. I haven't been able to find anything confirming if they are or aren't using this haptic feedback on them just yet, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But the best thing about the controllers is that the triggers are the adaptive triggers from the DualSense controllers for the PS5, which are extremely neat to use. For example, if you're using a bow, you'll feel pushback building from the trigger as you're pulling the bow backwards, which is odd at first, but it's really super helpful and immersive once you get used to it. So I've laid out all of the specs and the main features of the PSVR2. Now comes in the question if you should spend $550 to $600 on this headset. Of course, the obvious part is if you own a PS5 already or not, because not too many people do due to shortages. So if you don't already own a PS5 and you want the PSVR2, you're looking at a headset that costs over $1,100. Yes, you'd also get the PS5 with that, which is absolutely amazing, but if you're only looking at it for a VR aspect, it's not a cheap headset in the slightest. In my opinion though, with the specs, features, and the lineup of games that we have so far that'll be coming out on the headset, which I'll be releasing a video on very shortly, so subscribe if you aren't already to know all the upcoming original PSVR2 games. If you have the extra cash to spend on the headset at this price, and you know that you're going to be using it fairly often, and as well for the PS5, then I'd absolutely advise you to buy the PSVR2. But if you're someone who's never tried VR before, or you're on a budget, or especially if you you haven't gotten a PS5 and you don't already plan on buying one and you're in a budget, even though it's much less powerful than the PSVR2, I'd definitely say get the MetaQuest 2 if you want a VR headset right now, as it's only $400 and it's fully standalone. But with that said, if you're willing to wait later on in the year and you still don't plan on buying a PS5 at that time, the MetaQuest 3 is expected to release later on this year. Now, we don't know anything official about the headset, but we can guess that it will be close to the same price as the Quest 2, but run much better and hopefully be much more compact compared to the Quest 2. At the end of the day, the decision is fully up to you whether you want to shell out the cash for this headset or not, but I hope I've given you enough info to at least be a little more sure of your decision on whether to get or to not get the PSVR 2. I'd love to know what your decision is and why down in the comments below. If you want to know all launch games for the PSVR 2, check out the video on the screen right now. If you want to keep up to date on all things PSVR 2 related, be sure to subscribe. That is it for me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.